Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, members. Really appreciate the opportunity to be before you today here on Assembly Bill 35, which is the Proposition 4 Implementation Acceleration Act. At the outset, I want to be really thankful to the committee's work. I appreciate all of the feedback throughout this process, and we accept the committee's amendments. Thank you very much again for all that work and analysis. So what does AB 35 do? AB 35 provides a targeted exemption from the Administrative Procedures Act, the APA, for programs that are funded by Proposition 4, the Climate Resilience and Natural Resources Bond that was approved by voters back in November of 2024. That was Proposition 4. That was a ballot measure that we put on, the legislature put on through SB 867. And again, the voters overwhelmingly approved that proposition, signaling not only their strong support for immediate investment in wildfire prevention, safe drinking water, flood protection, climate adaptation, and the protection of agricultural and natural resources. The bond was intentionally designed to address urgent and ongoing climate impacts already affecting many of our communities throughout California. After the voters approved the bond and then the legislature allocated the funds last fall, in summer actually, of last year, my office started to closely track the rollout of Proposition 4. And why would that be, you might ask? And that's because one of the components of Proposition 4 was very important for my district. Proposition 4 included $43 million to address pollution in our rivers, particularly the Tijuana River. Through this process, my staff, and as we learned from state agencies, including State Water Resources Board, Wildlife Conservation Board, the Department of Food and Agriculture, they indicated that the APA required rulemaking, which this bill seeks to exempt, would take about 12 to 18 months, delaying funds from reaching the communities that were intended to reach. In the meantime, Prop $4, like I said, for water reuse, recycling, dam safety, forest health, wildfire mitigation, energy storage, grid support, and others are effectively on hold. According to staff and the research that we've done, if APA exemption was included in Proposition 4, as had been in every other bond prior to this, revolving funds and other existing programs would already have had these funds available for disbursement. Bond measures like Proposition 4 are most effective when these funds are deployed quickly and strategically, as was written in the bill that then became the proposition, and if they're invested before conditions worsen and, most importantly, costs rise. And that's what we're hoping to do with AB 35. The exemption is not new or unprecedented, as I said, in Proposition 84 back in 2006, Proposition 1 in 2014, Proposition 68, 2018. All of these included the same provision that we are seeking today. However, we also preserve transparency and accountability with this measure. So there will continue to be statutory guidelines that need to be followed. Funds must be subject to audits, reporting requirements, public oversight, and agencies must act with clearly defined legislative parameters. So this exemption is narrow, but also important. The urgency is especially real in my district, as I mentioned, where communities have endured years of sewage pollution in the Tijuana River. When Proposition 4 was drafted back in 2024, I sent a memo to the author requesting cross-border river pollution funding be included in a dedicated line item. Beaches in South San Diego, the areas that I represent, have been closed since December of 2021. And new research from Scripps Institution of Oceanography shows that sewage contamination is now affecting the air that my residents breathe. Voters approved Prop 4 with the expectation that projects would move quickly and effectively, and AB 35 ensures that that is the case. Now I'd like to turn it over to our two testimony. Here we have Supervisor Paloma Aguirre, who is former mayor of Imperial Beach, who has been a long-time advocate for our crisis that we have in San Diego with the Tijuana River. She's now leading this effort at the County of San Diego as supervisor. The county is the primary sponsor, and I'd like to turn it over to Supervisor Aguirre.
Thank you, Assembly Member, and good afternoon, committee members. My name is Paloma Aguirre. I represent District 1, about 650,000 residents that border the actual U.S.-Mexico border. As the Assembly Member mentioned, my community has suffered from the impacts from Tijuana River pollution for decades. But it hasn't been until recently that we have now discovered, because of empirical evidence, that my constituents are falling ill, not just after coming into contact with coastal waters, but simply by breathing. Scripps Institution of Oceanography has determined that at least 30,000 people have fallen ill in 2017. That's just an example of how broad and vast these impacts are. People have the ability to say no to going into the water, but all of us need air to breathe. And I have community members that are falling ill with gastrointestinal illnesses, with upper and lower respiratory illnesses, chronic migraines, and it really impacts especially our vulnerable population, which are seniors and children. There is an area in the Tijuana River Valley that there is a hotspot where there's man-made infrastructure that, ironically, it was intended to control flooding. But now that is actually exacerbating the issue because it's causing the river to become more turbulent and shoot up into the air viruses, bacteria, and parasites, in addition to toxic gases such as hydrogen sulfide. Evidence has shown that hydrogen sulfide levels have been 166 times above state standards. So the urgency of this bill could not be overstated. At the county, we're putting skin in the game. We're putting funding towards a feasibility analysis. So if and when this bill is passed, we can have a shovel-ready project to begin removing that infrastructure and begin making a real difference for our constituents in their daily lives. So I appreciate your support, and obviously the bill has my full support. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Supervisor.